There it is.
Recorded.
Okay, looks like it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the Winnebago County Board meeting to order. Tonight is Thursday, November 10th, 2022, and I just have a quick statement to make before we begin. I want to state on the record that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the disaster declared by the governor and also an emergency in Winnebago County, the fire that occurred at the courthouse where the county board meeting room is located. Okay, so tonight's invocation and pledge allegiance is by board member John Butita.
Okay, God of peace, we invite you to preside over this meeting. Even if we have different opinions, give us a unity of spirit. Help us each to listen politely as others share their points of view. Help us to work as a unified team in combining ideas for a great outcome. Help us to work as a whole rather than as individuals. May we have a spirit of camaraderie in this room, work together for a shared vision. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
Liberty
for all.
for all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Butita.
Mhm.
Mr. Thompson, do we have any agenda adjustments or announcements this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that because we're doing a virtual meeting, that all votes this evening will be by roll call of the county clerk. And just a thank you to the IT department for making the provisions for a Zoom meeting while the county board room is being under remediation because of the fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And also, when I call entertain a motion, if you could say your name, and then the second also say your name so we can catch who's doing them by audio. Okay, Clerk Gamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. Sweeney,
Present.
Mr. Tassoni,
Present.
Mr. Webster, Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Arena,
Here.
Mr. Booker,
Present.
Mr. Butita,
Here.
Mrs. Crosby, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers,
Here.
Mr. Girl,
Present.
Mrs. Gorel,
Present.
Mr. Hoffman,
Present.
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy,
Present.
Mr. McDonald,
Here.
Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Neighbors, Mrs. Red, Mrs. Red, Mr. Salgado,
Present.
Mr. Schultz.
Here.
Thank you. Is there anybody that I called originally that has now joined us? Mrs. Crosby, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. Neighbors, Mrs. Red, Mr. Webster, or Mr. Westcott?
Madam Clerk, Dorothy Red was on, but she looks like she fell off and she may rejoin us.
Okay, I'll try to watch for her name. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. So Chairman, that is 7 board members absent, 13 board members present.
Very good. Thank you. We do have a quorum. Okay, we'll move on to number 5 on our agenda, which is awards, presentations, public hearing, and public participation. Do not believe we have any of those for this evening. Is there any public participation? Anybody on from the public? Okay, very good. Move on to number 6 is the approval of minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 13th, 2022 and lay over the October 27th, 2022 minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by
Angie Gorel.
Ms. Goro. Is there any discussion on the approval or layover of the minutes? Hearing none, Clerk Gummow, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers. Ms. Fellers. Mr. Girl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Thank you all. That's 13 yes and 7 board members absent.
Very good.
This is John Sweeney. I was never asked to vote on that roll call.
I apologize, Mr. Sweeney.
Yep.
Was that a yes?
Yes,
My apologies, Mr. Sweeney.
no problem.
Okay, the motion has been approved. Moving on to our consent agenda, can I entertain a motion to approve the raffle report and the auditor's report?
So moved, Angela Fellers.
Ms. Fellers moves to approve, second by
Aaron Booker?
Mr. Booker. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Very good. Clerk Gummow, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Arena.
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Girl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado.
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni.
Yes.
Did I miss any board members? Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, that's 13 board members yes, 7 board members absent.
Very good. Motion has been approved. Moving on to number 8 on our agenda are the appointments. Per county board rules, the appointments require a 30-day layover unless there is a suspension of the rule. The first tonight is North Park Fire Prevention Protection District. Annual compensation is not to exceed $1,500 per year. And Mr. Brent Mead is being placed up for appointment. That is a reappointment from November 2022 to November 2025. Second is for the Rockford area venues, events. Annual compensation is none. Mr. Gino Iafrate is a new appointment. That's from July 2022 to July 2027. Second is Kevin McCarthy. That is a new appointment, and he will be our county liaison for that appointment. Next up is the Emergency Telephone System Board, the ETSB Board. The annual compensation is none. Placing up for appointment is Mr. Sean Connors. That is a new appointment from April 2022 to April 2025. Those are our appointments. Moving on to reports of standing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
thank you. If I could just make a comment on this. I, to my colleagues on the board, we normally lay these over for 30 days, but that would carry these appointments into the next board. And so those new members would be unfamiliar with it. What I had asked the chairman to do is to place these on the old business agenda for the next board meeting, and we'll suspend the rules then and vote on them. So if you do want to contact any of these individuals prior to the vote, I'd ask you to do it in the next 2 weeks rather than waiting the full 30 days. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Arena. Okay, moving on our agenda, number 9, the reports of standing committees. The first is the Finance Committee. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 2 items. The first one is a resolution approving sidewalk patching for the courthouse and public safety building. But I'm gonna let Mr. Arena talk to that. I think he has a motion, so I'd like to have Mr. Arena make his motion.
Very good. Mr. Arena.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So there was some questions that came up with this in finance during that
Did we have a
committee
motion?
meeting.
I'm sorry,
No.
did we have a motion
No,
for discussion?
no,
So I need to make the motion first.
yes,
Okay, I move to send this back to committee.
Moved by Mr. Arena to send this item, this resolution back to committee. Is there a second?
Angela Fellers.
Second by Ms. Fellers. Discussion, Mr. Arena.
Thank you. So there was some questions in finance at that time. We had decided to go ahead and vote it through to bring it to the floor. After, between the committee meeting and now, those questions were not able to be answered. I spoke with Mr. Thompson this morning, and he suggested we send it back to committee so we could get answers to those questions. Specifically, it's related to the costs and related to our obligations to do this work, because I believe it's work on city property, not county property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Is there any board member discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Clerk Kamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, and this motion is to send it back to committee.
Correct.
We will start with Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Girl,
yes,
Mrs. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
yes,
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
yes,
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
yes,
Mr. Tassoni.
Yes.
Have I missed any board members?
Tim Neighbors is here. Yes.
Oh, Mr. Neighbors, thank you for joining us.
And I believe I was not called yes to from Mr. Arena.
Yep, coming back around the top, Mr. Arena, thank you very much. Mr. Neighbors, when did you join the meeting?
Right before the vote,
Okay,
right before Jaime got up.
thank you. Okay, thank you all. That's 14 board members, yes, 6 board members absent.
Very good. The resolution to send this item back to committee is approved.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is a resolution authorizing the settlement of pending litigation. Rosemary Hunter versus Officer Maureen Ashby et al. I move that, so I motion to approve this.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, seconded by
Angela Fellers.
Ms. Fellers. Any discussion?
No, it's just a settlement that the county for an incident that occurred. And so we're just moving it forward.
Very good. Any other board member discussion on this resolution? Clerk Gamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Gurl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel,
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita.
Yes.
Did I miss any board members?
Mrs. Red is finally on. I couldn't get on. Technical
Okay.
problem.
Hello, Mrs. Red, are you voting for the resolution? Thank
Yes.
you. Mr. Chairman, that would be 15 board members yes, 5 board members absent.
Very good. The resolution has been approved. Any further business, Mr. Salgado?
No, that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Move on to the zoning committee. Is Mr. Webster on this evening? And if not, Ms. Goro could read in. We have one item under unfinished business, if you want to take that now.
All right, we can do that. Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
C-0422, a map amendment to rezone 5.46 acres for the agriculture priority district to the RA Rural Agricultural Residential District, a sub-district of the Rural Ag District for the portion of the property that is commonly known as 11834 Winslow Road, Durant, Illinois, 611024 in Harrison Township, District 2. It's being laid over from 10/27/22.
Thank you, Ms. Goro. Is that motion? You have a motion with that, Ms. Goro?
I do.
Okay, motion to approve by Ms. Goro. Is there a second?
John
Second.
Sweeney, the second.
John Sweeney seconds. Is there discussion? Any board member discussion? Very good. Clerk Gamal, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. Gurl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel. I think that was a yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Neighbors,
No.
Mrs. Red,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
No.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
What the hell?
did I miss any board members?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes? Is this
Okay.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, it is. I finally got this such and such to work. Okay, what are we voting on?
We're voting on the Z-0422 map amendment. The property
yes.
on Winslow Road.
I'm a yes.
You are a yes, Mr. Webster,
Yes, I am.
and you just arrived.
Well, yes, sort of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Webster.
I hate Zoom.
How did I get, I'm not sure if I still have 5 board members that are, no, Mr. Webster is here. So we have Gene Crosby is still absent. I'm sorry, I'm clarifying. Dave Kelly is still absent. Mr. Lindmark is still absent. And Mr. Westcott is still absent. Is that, everybody's agreed with that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your patience. So on that motion, Mr. Chairman, we had 14 yes, 2 no, and 4 board members absent.
Very good. The motion has been approved. Does that conclude the report for the zoning committee?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goro, also.
Thank you. Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Angie.
We'll move
No
on.
problem.
We'll move on to the Economic Development Committee. Mr. Sweeney.
We have no committee report at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Operations and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Operations Committee has 3 resolutions this evening. I apologize about the video, but my internet connection is not fast enough for both. The first resolution authorizing a project management services agreement with Region 1 Planning Council to provide a connection feasibility study for the East Riverside multi-use path, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconded by
Butito, second.
Mr. Butita, seconds. Discussion.
No, Mr. Butita spent quite a bit of time on this. He may want to discuss this a bit.
Very good. Mr. Butita.
Sure. So this is a just a resolution to make move the funds, the ARP funds that I used, the discretionary funds I had to fund the feasibility study for the Riverside Path. So that is ongoing, and this is just paperwork to make the payment to the engineering firm that's doing it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Butita. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Clerk Gamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mrs. Goro. I'm sorry. Yes, we will start with Mrs. Goro this time.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors,
Yes.
Mrs. Red,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Girl.
Yes.
Did I miss any board members? Mr. Chairman, that would be 16 yes, 4 board members absent.
Very good. The resolution has been approved. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next resolution, resolution adopting the Regional Solid Waste Management Plan, a plan for Boone and Winnebago counties 2022 to 2042, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconded by. Can I get a second?
Yes, Mr. Salgado.
Mr. Salgado seconds that motion. Is there any discussion? Very good. Clerk Kamal, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time we will start with Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors,
Yes.
Mrs. Red,
Yes.
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Girl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel.
Yes.
Did I miss any board members? Thank you all. Mr. Chairman, that would be 16 yes and 4 board members absent.
Very good. The resolution has been approved. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our final resolution authorizing the chairman of the county board to execute an amended delinquent tax sale trustee agency intergovernmental agreement between the County of Winnebago, Illinois and Region 1 Planning Council, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, seconded by,
Arena.
seconded by Mr. Arena. Very good. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Angie Gorel.
Ms. Gorel, you have the floor.
Thank you. I hope in this agreement, because I know it's many pages long, that there is something written in there that R1 will give us an update to our trustee so he can pass it on to us at least quarterly if possible. Is there anything in that document that states that? That might be a question for our attorney.
Well, Lafa, you can answer that and I can also, but
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, on page 7 of the red line agreement, they're required to give us an annual update. But also upon request of the chairman or his designee, they can also provide us with documentation to present to the appropriate committee if it's less than the annual time frame.
Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Gorel. Any other discussion on this resolution?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Karina.
I just want to thank Ms. Vaughn for all the work she did on this. It was quite a bit of work, to our staff and to Chairman Chiarelli. I know that through this first contract, there was a lot of questions, a lot of issues about reporting, as Ms. Gorel just brought up. I think we've resolved everything that was outstanding with it, and I appreciate the cooperation of the folks at R1 and also coming to this point where we were able to agree on something I think will be solid moving forward. And also, I want to make everyone aware on this board who has needs in their district for blight remediation, that this program through the first contract has generated $700,000 in revenue for blight reduction. So I would encourage you to make your needs known to the folks at R1 so we could start spending that money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Any other discussion on this resolution? Okay, very good. Clerk Gamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time we will start with Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors,
Yes.
Mrs. Red,
yes,
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
Yes.
Mr. Girl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel,
yes,
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
did I miss any board members? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That would be 16 board members, yes, 4 board members absent.
Very good. Thank you. The motion has been approved. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Moving on to Public Works Committee, Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No report this evening. We'll be having a meeting next Wednesday.
Thank you, Mr. Gurl. So we already had our unfinished business for the zoning committee, so we'll move on to the appointments that are under unfinished business. The first is the Winnebago County Board of Health, compensation none for Mr. Derek Poons. It's a new appointment. The second is the Sewer Sanitary District, compensation none. That is for Kelsey Heaslop. That is a new appointment from May 2021 to May 2024. And Dennis Hill, it's a reappointment for the Seward Board. That is for May 2022 to May 2025. Is there a motion to approve these appointments?
Motion by,
Motion by Mr. Gurl. Is there a second?
John Sweeney.
McCarthy.
Second by Mr. McCarthy. Is there any discussion on these appointments that I have read in? Good, hearing none. Clerk Gamal, can you please call the roll?
Certainly, and I'm clarifying this is for all 3 appointments, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This time we will start with Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Neighbors,
Yes.
Mrs. Red,
yes,
Mr. Salgado,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Tassoni,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yep. Yes.
Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Booker,
Yes.
Mr. Butita,
Yes.
Ms. Fellers,
yes,
Mr. Gurl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel,
yes,
Mr. Hoffman,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Did I miss any board members? Mr. Chairman, that is 16 board members, yes, 4 board members absent.
Very good. The appointments have been approved. Moving on to new business. Is there any-
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Yes,
while we're on appointments, I just want to make sure that the mental health board gets their reappointed, and we still have a empty seat that someone needs to be appointed to. We're coming up on the end of the year where we have more reappointments, and that'll be 5 seats that need to be reappointed. So reappointed and filled. So I really wish that we could get at least the reappointments and the appointments.
We are working on that, Mr. Neighbors. I had a very long discussion today with Mariana Body, so we are moving in that direction.
All right, because it kind of feels like it's a conspiracy against the mental health board with 5 empty seats and 5 people able to be replaced all at once. So that's the feeling.
Well, I can assure you there's no conspiracy, Mr. Neighbors.
Okay.
So we are moving in that direction. So you'd be happy to know we had a good conversation today. And all the appointments that are up for reappointment, Mr. Neighbors, can serve expired terms at the will of the chairman by the mental health board rules and most appointment rules. So there's no jeopardy for anyone not being legitimate. That's just a standard procedure on any board that the county board has advice and consent on.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. But I can assure you we are moving forward with the good progress. Any other discussion under new business? Okay, we'll move on to announcements and communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The items listed in your packet was received as correspondence. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my wonderful staff, all of the election judges, and all the voters that participated in Tuesday's general election. Just a reminder that the results are still considered unofficial. We have 2 weeks to count any of the mail-in ballots that were postmarked on the 8th or prior. We also have some ballots that we had received that have not been tabulated yet. And we also have provisional ballots we need to sort through. Those numbers are posted on the Winnebago County Clerk's website if you're interested in looking at those numbers. And we will be certifying the results at the end of the day on November 22nd. So again, thank you to the dedicated staff, the election judges, the delivery people. Everybody was fabulous, making sure that the successful election has been wrapping up, and to again assure everybody's vote is counted and it's a safe and secure election. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Gamal. You did a very hard work the last, I don't know, last year and a half, 2 years. Very good. We appreciate 3 years. 3 years. It's been almost 2 years for me, so that's how I said. Put a lot of hard work into the elections, and I appreciate it. We all do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements or communications with board members?
I have a question, Angie Gorel.
Ms. Gorel.
Lori, do we have our elections return site updated, or don't we?
We do not. Once we finish the results on the end of the night, which was late on Tuesday night, we will not run the tabulators or close them out until the end of the day on the 22nd.
Okay, because I've had some people complain that they know who has won, but it doesn't match up with our site. They go in on, do you be surprised how many people go in on that site to see what's going on?
Okay, and then keep in mind, we're very unique in Winnebago County that we have 2 election authorities and that they have to look at the view results to get the combined results. That's kind of unique for Winnebago County. So they have to make sure they are looking at both the numbers to get the total.
I will remind them of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gorel. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, Dave Tassoni here.
Mr. Tassoni, yes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question would go out if Mrs. Gamal could just speak to the process for determining the terms for board members existing and new.
Yes, there's discussion on us having a lottery And we will be pulling lottery numbers to determine which board members will be receiving 442 or 244. That was the procedure that was conducted 10 years ago with the prior clerk. And we will be doing that after the results will be confirmed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni.
Any other announcements, communications for board members or staff members?
John Sweeney, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Sweeney, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to state that for the record, I absolutely believe that Mrs. Gumow's department should handle the elections countywide. I've had numerous discussions with people about how cumbersome the situation is with, you know, the combining of the totals and some of the misreporting, not misreporting, but just that the numbers, you know, it's hard to filter through there and get, you know, the accurate, up-to-date data. And there's no reason why the public would not be better served to have one person who's duly elected and accountable for our elections to be running that process, and that should be Mrs. Gumow's office.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Arena, you have the floor.
yeah, to follow up on Mr. Sweeney's point, I recall the board prior to my term beginning had put a resolution on or a referendum on the ballot asking that question, and I seem to recall that it passed. So the citizens of Winnebago County were already asked, if I'm remembering correctly, should there be just one election authority, and they said yes. So I would recommend that we look back at that and confirm if that's correct and possibly begin discussions to act on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Any other board member communication or announcements?
Excuse me?
Yeah, Mr. Webster, you have the floor.
Yeah, as far as the lottery goes, it seems to me there would be three different scenarios there. So you could have a 442 or a 424 or a 244. That would be the three different outcomes, if I'm not mistaken.
Ms. Gumow?
I appreciate that. We're looking at what the state says and if any counties have pre-existing resolutions or ordinances to that effect. I do believe, however, the last time that it was conducted 10 years ago with the prior clerk, and anybody here is more than welcome to correct me, I believe it was at that time a 244 or a 442. If the board chooses to go with the third option, we would have to look at that.
Thank you.
Mr. Arena?
Just to chime in on that, I would support the three options because I think it's better for the function of the board when there's more stability and less turnover at one time. And I think that would be served better with having fewer people up for election at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena.
Mr. Chairman, this is Pat Thompson.
You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Just looking ahead a little bit in terms of scheduling. The week of Thanksgiving, our board meeting will be on the 22nd of the month, which is a Tuesday. Looking ahead a little bit, the constitutional officers, there'll be a swearing in with the chief judge on December 1st. Those are just the constitutionally elected officers, sheriff, coroner, treasurer. Then on December 5th, Monday, there'll be a morning time yet to be determined, a morning swearing in of the county board members. And then that week on Thursday, the 8th of December, that will be the first meeting of the new board. The meeting of the 22nd of November, hopefully we'll be back in our boardroom by then. I'm optimistic that we will be. If not, I think we'll make provisions to have the meeting in Memorial Hall or elsewhere, but I'm hopeful we'll be back in the boardroom by then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I also want to say there's been a lot of progress on the courthouse with IT has been instrumental in helping the different departments get situated at the judicial center over the sheriff's department. We really appreciate that. The vendor that was hired first on site is working very hard to get that building back to the position that we can have our citizens come back in and our employees in a safe manner, since they're doing a lot of cleaning on every floor. So just wanted to give you that update. And if there's any further updates on that, we'll be sending those out through email to the county board members. And also tomorrow is Veterans Day and the county offices will be closed. And I also want to ask everyone to take a moment tomorrow in observation of the Veterans Day. Think a veteran, think about veterans, and encourage everyone to recognize their contributions of our servicemen and women in the cause of peace and freedom in our country. So, and thank you to any veterans on our board or any staff members for your service. So is there anything else for county board members this evening?
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Webster motions to adjourn, second by Mrs.
Neighbors.
Mr. Neighbors seconds that motion. I think we can do just a roll voice on that one. All in favor of the adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great evening. Good job, Lori.
Thank you, Papa Smurf.